As we start? Okay. Let's begin. Okay, we'll get rolling. How many people are, first of all, I'll ask, are people familiar with Map Anything, or this is why you're here? You have not seen it or heard it or dealt with it before? Okay. Super. Okay. And we're going to go through the whole thing. My name is Mark Easley. I have been with Map Anything for about 2 months now. Prior to that, I was with Salesforce for 7.5 years. So I recently came over. We've been growing, and we are one of the geoanalysis vendors, one of the very few that work really well with Salesforce. So very excited to be here. This is Tom Dudley, and we're both from Map Anything. Tom's from Colorado, and I'm from the East Coast in Maryland. And our goal here today is to make sure that we, through this, we want to give you a good idea of what it is Map Anything can do and where it can add value. And we're going to go beyond Salesforce automation. I know that the conference is focused around Salesforce, but we're also going to keep this. We want people to keep open minds because there's a lot of use cases for this type of technology. And we're going to talk about the technology in 3 different sort of product lines. So I'll talk a little bit about them, and then we'll have Tom do some clicks, and then we'll talk a little bit, some clicks, and then we'll finish with the 3rd one. So, all right. So at Map Anything, let's go to the next. Who is Map Anything? So at Map Anything, we believe there are huge benefits by visualizing your data in the context of a map. Some of these benefits include organizing and executing faster, freeing up more time to sell, being efficient at things like territory planning, and then really basically standing back and having analysis and visualization of things you wouldn't otherwise have had without viewing your data in the context of a map. And most of what we're going to talk about in this first data set, which we call Map Anything Core, is about Salesforce data. So anything that is in Salesforce, we can visualize on a map. So that's kind of our key thing. That's our starter point. That's our foot in the door in a lot of the conversations. People have accounts, leads. We can very easily visualize those on a map, and we're going to show you some of that. So let's go to the next. We have somewhere in the ballpark, we're over 800 customers, and our focus, really how we sell today, is we go after Salesforce customers. I mean, like I said, we have a lot of use cases in marketing, in Salesforce automation, in service. So we really can sell. We believe we can sell to any Salesforce customer that's out there. The other place we sell is we work with Salesforce account teams a lot. There's sales reps and their SEs, and we're actually averaging, in the last 7 months, we've averaged about 160 downloads by Salesforce employees every month for the last 7 months. So that's pretty good. We have a lot of SEs at Salesforce that download Map Anything and include it as part of their presentations and demo positioning. So that's a part of it. So this is our logo slide. There's some of these here. I'm going to go through 3 of these just to give you an idea of some of the use cases, and then, like I said, we'll start with a demo, or we'll go to the demo. So the first one is Herff Jones. This is an achievement products company. They do things like class rings, yearbooks, caps, gowns, stuff like that. They were spending a ton of time. Their use case was all about territory management, so most of the time that they spent was on setting up territories for their customer base or their account execs. And when they were defining territories, the things that they looked at were account volume, so what existing were accounts, how much they were ordering, so the size of the schools, and for us, what was important was the school districts and those configurations. So they were really interested in school districts and configurations. And so they took those things into account, just like any account takes a lot of different parameters into account when they're doing territory planning. And they would take the information in Salesforce, they'd do some trial and error, they'd set it up in Salesforce, they'd go down to Excel, they'd put it in, there's a local tool called MapPoint that you can actually import data in and do some geocoding things, but it's not integrated with Salesforce. So they were down to Salesforce, over to MapPoint, back up to Salesforce, and they were doing this like constantly over and over again. So they saw a huge benefit when they implemented Map Anything. We can get it up and running in 20 minutes, and you can immediately just start doing this stuff. So things like territory management, all the stuff we're going to show you. It's very, very easy to implement. As a matter of fact, we used to be a services company. When Map Anything started, we were a services company. We used to be called Cloud Built, and all we did was SI work. About 3-4 years ago, we came out with this Map Anything product for a particular customer, and it's all anybody wanted from there forward. So we basically dissolved our services resources. We don't even have a services team. We have post-sales support, we have customer success managers, and we have pre-sales. We have development, and that's it. We don't even have a services implementation team. So we're starting to get more relationship with partners, but we want the product to be really easy to install and use. So that's a big focus of what we're trying to do. So that was their piece. They got a 90% improvement rate. The other use case thing with Herff Jones that was interesting is they were using us to make sure they were identifying. They go after school advisors, so that was their target base. So they were looking for making sure that when they sent out emails to school advisors, they wanted the emails to get there just before the school day started. So that was a big part of their model, and we helped them from a time zone perspective. They could go in and look at their customers from a time zone perspective and make sure when they sent the emails, they sent them in waves so that they were getting to their inboxes at the right time. So let's go to the next one. Dyax is a biopharmaceutical company. They were acquired by a company called Shire in January. They're based out of Burlington, Mass. Their biggest challenge was around optimizing their route and schedule planning. So that's a very common use case for Map Anything today. That's where we probably sell today most of our licenses, where they have a field sales team, and they're trying to plan a trip somewhere, and they're setting up a meeting or two, and they're not sure how much time it's going to take to move from account to account. And ideally, we have ROI models where you go in and you say, listen, we can make your field team more productive. If you're doing 3 meetings in one trip, we could probably get you to 5 or 8 or 10, who knows? So what we do is, and we'll show you this in the demo, is we allow people to go in, target customers for a particular visit, and then route optimize, including drive time and time spent at the customer and all that. So we'll go through some of that with you. So they actually found that they were spending way more time selling and less on trying to manage, what are they going to do on this trip. They spent a lot of administrative time on setting up their trips. And also their territories are quite large. They were multi-state territories for single reps, and they came back and said that their reps, after using this tool, were much more familiar with their territories and their accounts. So one more, we'll do First Data. Any of these guys in the room, First Data, Dyax, or Herff Jones? No? Okay. I like to ask that sometimes. So, okay, so First Data is a payment processing company out of Atlanta, Georgia. So some of their challenges were similar to Dyax in that they wanted to do the route planning. But the other thing to think of when you think of Map Anything, they also wanted to not just go visit accounts, but they wanted to visit leads. So if you think of Map Anything, think of it in terms of layers. We were talking about the old overhead projectors a minute ago. In the old days, when you had overhead projectors, you had transparencies, and you could lay them on top of each other. That's how you need to think about Map Anything as a tool. Is we can put a layer down that shows accounts, we can put one that has leads, we can put one that has, and we can do all these, and you can analyze those together. And more importantly, if you're going on a trip to see some accounts, you can put a layer of leads on there. Maybe I'm going to visit a couple of hot leads while I'm out there. So we can encompass all of those and route them all. Say just route all these together and plan those days. So that's a big part of what First Data was trying to do. The other thing that they were doing at First Data was check in, check out. So that's another feature we have. They were spending a lot of time documenting the trip. So they would write it down and they'd come back and they'd enter it in Salesforce. With Map Anything, it's one click. When I get within sight of the account, there's a way to actually automate it. So when they get near the account within so many feet, because we can use the GPS on their phones and devices, and we can say automatically check them in. We create a record in Salesforce that creates the event that they were there, and then when they go to leave, we can either automatically check them out, or what they wanted was when they check out, they hit a checkout button, and it pops a little form, and it says, here's the result of that meeting. I type a few notes, boom, that's another action that goes in. So it made their updates with these accounts. They barely did it before, and now they're getting a lot more data. So they're spending way less time doing data entry, or prior to they weren't even doing any at all, and now they're doing a lot more selling instead of data entry and spending more time with their clients. So all of that I just described, those kinds of things, we're not, like I said, we're not getting into all the service use cases and everything, but that's kind of what we call core. That's our core use cases for customers today. So let's have Tom go in and do the interesting stuff, the cool stuff, the product stuff.
So I'm going to give you a really short demo, about 10 minutes. And what we're going to look at is sort of a classic use case, what Mark was talking about, is using Map Anything for visualizing your accounts, your opportunities, your leads. I've got accounts up here, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But for your inside and outside sales reps and your sales operations, visualization is everything. You want to see where your account's at, what the opportunity is, what the annual revenue is. Any information in Salesforce, we can map and put them in a map. These markers, you can make them any color you want, different shapes. Some people, you can upload, images for your company logos, things like that. So you can really customize these things. Map Anything is a 100% native Salesforce app. So when you install it, it takes 20, 40 minutes. It's really easy. I can help you with that. Configure it. You can map any of your Salesforce objects. And what you get in Salesforce is just another tab, Map Anything, just like all your other tabs in Salesforce. When you click Map Anything, you get your map. And you can start mapping your Salesforce.
And some of the default things you would expect if you're in an account, it puts a Map It button there. So if you're looking at an account in Salesforce, you hit a Map It button, it takes you into the map, shows you where that is. So we have that. You can toggle back and forth between Map Anything and Salesforce. So.
That's right. Yeah. And then, I'm not going to deep sea dive on this stuff, but there's more functionality just in the UI here that's great. And we use Google for our mapping API, so that's why this looks like Google Maps, because it is Google Maps. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on this Layers tab, and now you can see this is the legend for the map key for all of our markers out there. And what you're looking at right now is the account object, and we're looking at accounts by last activity. So I'm looking at green markers 60 days ago to today, so pretty current activity on that. The yellow markers 60 to 180 days ago, and then more important, these red markers. These customers haven't been touched in 180 days to 2 years. So, wow, we need to do something about that. So right there, that map's telling you something, right? And what you can do is you can customize that map. I can say, okay, I'm going to turn off those accounts and only pay attention to those red markers, indicating they need to be touched.
And just two quick things on that too is this is what we call a legend. So this can be anything. This can be any field. So it can be show me accounts by products, services that they're selling. Yep. And we have what's called a cross-object query engine. It's really powerful. So you can traverse from accounts to, many places to set these filters and get it to display. So I wanted to. Yeah. And also you can always. There's always a list view. You might want to click that.
Oh, yeah.
We'll there's always a list view. So anything we're mapping on the screen, there's always that list view of those. So
that's right.
We'll show you that in a sec.
Yeah. So for your inside sales reps, who am I going to call today? They might prioritize based on, well, there's different ways to prioritize that. So I can select any of these map markers and create what's called a list view. I can also, when I click on that little shape I just drew, you get some light BI. I can see annual revenue for all those accounts in that shape. Annual revenue is about $3 million, and there's $160 of opportunity. This report's totally customizable. Any numeric field in Salesforce can be in that little light BI report. So
this is the use case we were talking about with Herf Jones and their territory management. They define their territories in shapes, and you can do that by zip code, state, whatever, or you can draw it. Or you can just hand draw it, and he just drew that, so we aggregate that, make it really easy to kind of compare different territories really fast. So
that's right. And so what you can do with this little report too is create a selected tab, and now you can get a list view. And so that list view, there's only a few accounts on here, but you could have you go into work that morning, you prioritize your accounts, or you select your accounts, then you can prioritize them based on any of the information in Salesforce. So annual revenue, I'm going to start with my top accounts first, start calling those, reaching out to them. Them not red anymore on my map. So that's a great list view. Inside Sales loves this. Our inside sales team uses this every day. They love it. All right, outside sales. Oops, sorry about that. Cancel. So your inside sales team could use Map Anything, create call lists, prioritize, just look at visually, what's going on out there with all the accounts, leads, opportunities. So your outside sales team could do the same thing. But what's really neat about Map Anything is they can start routing. They can create their routes. If they're flying into Cleveland, they want to hit those key accounts. They can plan their route that way. So you might have maybe this account here. I'll go ahead and click on it. There we go. This is an anchor account. So this is one of my best accounts. And you can, when I click on any of these map markers, this is really important to point out, I get this tooltip report here. And this list is totally customizable. So annual revenue, account phone number, franchise, healthcare, industry, whatever it is you want in Salesforce, you can put in this report. This, I tell you, sales reps love this. This drives Salesforce adoption big time. This gives them pertinent information to act on. And so acting on it, your inside and outside teams can go to actions. They can log a call, send an email, anything, chatter posts. So they can really start using Salesforce through this mapping application. Everybody loves maps. I mean, we use Google. You guys probably use Google all the time for different Google Maps for different things. Anyway, so this is one of my anchor accounts. I'm an outside rep. I'm going to go to Cleveland. And what I want to do is look about 10 miles outside of that account to see who else is out there that I can go touch in one day. So what I'm going to do next is set this as a proximity center. And I can make this radius any width I want. Right now, it's about a 10-mile radius. And what I'm going to do is select all the accounts that fall within that circle there, and I'm going to add them to a route. So I'm going to go mass actions, add to route.
You want to get rid of the other boundary, or do you need that?
Yeah, I'll turn that off. Yeah, my map's starting to get a little funky there. There we go. So when I did that, mass action, add to route, in the routes tab, I have all those accounts in there now. And so I'm starting to build this route here. That's 5 accounts. I say, okay, maybe I can go out and hit some leads when I'm out there in the field. So let's go to another layer that I have. I have leads by rating, and I'm going to turn that on. And I can see that I've got some. Here's my legend for my leads by rating, and I've got some hot leads. So let me turn off the warm ones. I only want to go touch those hot leads. I want to go make some money out there in the field, right? So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add some of these to my route. So I can click on these leads individually, get more information about them. I can go to my actions button, and I can add that to a route. And maybe I'd add this lead to a route. So you can see how you can start building your route. Those are added to my routes tab. And since I'm flying in and out of Cleveland that day, what I'm going to do is use this Google search window up here on the right. And I'm going to go to the Cleveland airport, or I can just type in airports. If I can type, my font up here is really small. There we go, airport. And so what Google is doing is it's putting its points of interest out there on the map with little airplane icons. So there's Cleveland International Airport. I can click on that, and I can add that to my route.
So that's not even in Salesforce, right?
Yep.
So this is using Google POI, so it's
Yep.
millions and millions of records. So you can do that with anything.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, really easy. And what I can do now is I can lock this as the start and end of my route. Okay, start and end of my route. And now what I'm going to do is optimize this route with the little lightning bolt button up there. So I'm optimizing the route, and it builds that route. And let me turn off that circle just so you can see it a little better. There we go. And I'll zoom out. So there's the airport, and there's all my accounts and leads that I want to visit, right? It's pretty straightforward stuff. Really easy to do. Let's go back to the routes tab there. So this is optimized. This is optimized just on distance and traffic. So it's taking into account Google traffic. I've got 9 stops, about 43 miles, 1 hour and 35 minutes of windshield time. So not too bad of a day, right? What you can do next is add the time factor in. Click the little alarm clock button up there. Now I can set my work day. So I'm flying in, let's say I'm flying in at 7 a.m. I'm going to probably be in my rental car by 8 a.m., and I'm going to start driving by 8 a.m. And then let's leave 5 p.m. as the end of the workday. My flight's at 7, so I try to be back to the rental car agency at 5 o'clock. Okay, let's optimize again. Well, actually, you know what? One of my good friends works at the Tyler Elevator Company. I'm going to set, and you can do this for any of these accounts and leads, I can set an appointment time in here. I'll set noon, and continue working. I'm going to set the appointment time for 12, and I'm going to have lunch for an hour and a half with that customer. Now I'm going to re-optimize. And you can do that for all of those.
So you said that you can do cross objects
Yep.
stuff. So like, let's say I'm an account executive and I own 10 accounts in that area. Can I cross object filter off of cases to say, hey, which one might be my riskiest clients right now? Because
100%.
having lots of problems
Yep.
with our product.
Yeah, I mean, in some Salesforce instances, people have the concept of customer state, status, whatever. You could key off that, or you could say, look at the number of cases. Remember, when you run that query, you can say anything. Give me the customers that have 10, high priority cases, or don't have 10 high priority cases, whatever. So, very easy.
All right. So if there was a problem in my schedule, let's just say my workday window wasn't large enough, or I'm going to take a 2-hour lunch, it'll tell you if there's a problem, and then you can fix it.
And he defaulted the time, so a lot of these meetings are only 30 minutes. That was the default. You could change that. But look down here at the bottom. His day's finished at 2:18. So that's where we come into the use case, the value add. He's done by 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a wasted trip. So maybe we can get 2 or 3 more meetings. We can bring back that hot lead list and add a couple more as an example. So, and you could do this while you're on the road too. You can add things while you're on the road with the mobile. So.
And if I sell, something to hospitals, machines to hospitals, you can search for hospitals in here and then go look. Okay, let's go find a new customer, and I can click on that hospital and use what we call click to create and add a new Salesforce record. I want a new lead, and I'm going to create a new lead. Just like that. I won't type all this information in, but I can create a lead just like that. Add that to my route, re-optimize my route, and go on.
Do you want to bring up the mobile?
What's that?
Mobile.
Yeah, let's go to mobile. So what I'm going to do next is save this route, and we're going to go over to the Salesforce One mobile app. I'll show you how that works. So I'm going to save as, and it's going to save to a calendar. I'll call this.
So he's typing here. I know it's hard to see. So
Yeah.
I can just switch it back when I want.
Exactly.
That. Okay, cool.
Or some people
Working on the lights, guys.
Who know what went down.
It went down on the whole hotel, so they're, I don't know why, or if it's a breaker or what.
Map anything machine
So,
is too
how are you
powerful.
This is code.
It'll, you can plug it back in now, because it's already killed. So once the power comes back on, it'll still on standby. So you're good.
So the whole building's down?
Yeah.
Every building.
The whole resort, did he say?
I don't know about the whole resort, but every room looks like this right now.
Whole building's down. The booth.
That's the lights out there. Those are the
booth
backup
area.
lights.
Yeah, emergency lights out there.
So what would you say is like the number one use case for you guys? I mean, is it, you know,
This is what we're doing right now.
do sales reps feel like this is like Big Brother, like, oh, you're watching what I'm doing on sales trips? I mean, is there some pushback on that?
There, yeah. So I've heard that. I've been on calls with the manager and the reps are going, "Hey, it's Big Brother," and the manager's like, "No, you need to use this." So,
But I think
yeah.
it goes both ways.
Yeah.
So we just talked to a woman came by the booth. What was the company she was from out of New Mexico?
Oh, yeah.
They have like 100 licenses, and they said their field people absolutely love it because they can plan. They don't spend time like, where am I going and how far is it from one to the other? I mean, we calculate all that stuff, driving distance, traffic. When he puts in the time of day, we're sort of looking at some of those factors. Including weather, like he didn't even show you that, but that's one of the buttons across the top. You could see what the weather's going to be and what the weather is now and all that kind of stuff. So, but that is one of the bigger use cases. Territory management is also a big use case, the ability to aggregate collectively. But I can tell you the other two product sets that we were about to show next after he did the mobile thing, I think that's where our future is. One of them is live, which is the ability to map, things that are moving, vehicles, people, anything that moves. So we can either put a device in vehicles or in a container. We have a device that's like a battery, 7-year battery. You can put in that. It uses GPS network. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to show you a demo of that, which is really cool.
Okay,
But I think
do
that
you
was
like how Google Maps does with your phone. Like if I sign into Google, it will automatically track my phone.
Unless you turn it on.
Correct.
Right.
Right. That is our. Well, what we're doing is we've got the devices today. We've got customers using those. We're coming out with an app that you authenticate. So you basically go in. If you have a tech, I mean, I don't know if that would be as applicable for sales, but it would be very applicable for field techs. Like where are my techs? So they get up in the morning, they turn it on, they log on, and then we can track them anywhere in Salesforce. So you can see where they are, what route they went, they're working on, or what cases they're working on in Salesforce, and then there's a very strong break fix here.
Well, I just even think, right, if I have a sales engineer assigned to me and I'm out in the field, and that sales engineer can actually track where I'm going and say, oh, he's with this client now, like,
They totally can.
and I have him on the bat phone, right, that I can call that sales engineer anytime to fire up a demo real quickly. They can say, oh, hey, they're with this client, I already know what's going on, I can pull up their record in Salesforce.
That's a good use case right there.
Yeah, the use cases are pretty endless with that. Because we talk to people like, people with large, expensive equipment. They just want to know where those things are all the time. And the other thing is that's called fleet management. That exists in the world today. It's not like we created the ability to track devices, but our hook is that we really make it easy to do within Salesforce. That's the nice thing. So we can collect all of that data and we can aggregate it and put it in Salesforce, whatever amount you want. But we can also maintain, everything, like their history. And that was one of the things we're sort of spoiling all our cool stuff. But I'm a little worried we're not going to be able to end up showing it at all. So
If we can't do it here, please come by our booth. We can do the same.
Yeah, we do need.
No, we're going to want to flip the switch.
No, I know that, so they don't pop.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool.
You can like that.
Oh, yeah, that's probably we should do that too on all the rest of them.
Well, but Riley said though that when the power comes back, it'll stretch the
Okay. I wasn't super worried about that. I was just worried about
the other product that we have, we'll just drop it once while you're here. Is,
Where's Cornstark?
what we call data, premium data. So we can host non-Salesforce data.
Wait, I unplugged
That's another big thing we're getting into. We're talking to customers, finding out what data do you use to run your business. Is it a data set that you can give to us and we can host it for you, or is it a data set that we can go purchase and lease it back? And so one of our data sets that we just announced last week is called the Premium Property Data Set. It's got 160 million property data values in the 140 million in the U.S. It has both commercial and residential data, and it has over 300 fields. overlay that layer, one of the layers, right where your Salesforce data is.
So one thing that you guys talked about was like the checking in and checking out.
Yep.
When I check out, it populates like a, hey, this is what happened in the meeting, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, can you customize that to
Yes.
say, okay, I'm a manager of sales, and I want to make sure that certain things were hit, or, you know, I want to make sure that
You can make some of those things.
that visit was valuable, right?
Yes.
Like it wasn't just a waste of time, and I want, you know, so can I customize that, like almost like a questionnaire for the sales rep, like, hey, what you talk about, what you do here,
Absolutely.
you know, what do you think you did well, what do you think went poorly, like,
Yep.
so that there's like training.
I mean,
as well.
we as a best practice, we don't recommend you make them fill out a book,
Right,
because
right,
they're on a
right.
mobile
Yeah,
device
exactly.
typically. But yes, absolutely. And we have some customers that say we just want them when they leave, when they get out of proximity, because we can proximity fence. So when their phones get outside of a certain range of a customer, we can check them out automatically, as if you don't want to disposition anything, and then when they left based on their phone. So that's. Some people want to go the more automated route and just make sure that people. Some people don't want people to be able to check in unless they're on the premise. So unless they're within 60 feet or 50 feet of the actual account, don't let them check in, because I guess some of these accounts have had issues where people say, I'm checking in, and they're just hanging out at home, and they're not. So it'll say you're not within proximity. He's got it turned off, so when he was going to show the check-in for one of these accounts in Cleveland, it's going to let him do it. But if it said must be within a
You're in Utah.
X distance proximity, it will let him. And it actually will, when he checks in and checks out, we could go to the record, in the chatter feed and in the record, you can see that it shows where he was when he hit check-in. So we track all that stuff.
And the administrator handles that, correct? Check in, check out. If we want it on or off, they can't do it manually on their own?
No, they can't turn it on and off. If you want them to do, you set the policy. Right, you set the policy.
Yeah, we adhere to all the Salesforce administrative rules and workflows and triggers. Mapping doesn't change anything, but you can, yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as the Big Brother stuff, most companies, they love that because they can really track. As far as like reimbursing mileage, it's another great use case. We talked to a company who found out they were probably spending about under half $500,000 too much in mileage reimbursement after doing some research and doing some calculations. ROI, they love it. So, okay, this is the real number for reimbursement.
We've had companies that react the other way too. They're like, well, because their process is so manual that all their people every week, their techs write down their mileage and then they have to submit at the end of the week. And they're like, well, if we use this, then that means all those people will automatically be submitting. They don't even have to pay half of the people because half the people don't even submit it because it takes too much work. So
Right.
I thought that was an interesting response. Like, the guys are lazy and we're going to rely on the fact that we don't have to pay them.
So can you run reports like as to like, hey, this is my cost to visit ratio right now. Like, I'm spending, $500 per client visit or per lead visit or whatever. So like, right, I put in my cost for this trip that was $1,500 and I visited 5 clients, so it's $300 a visit technically. So can you run those kind of reports with this?
We actually have a template now, don't we? An ROI template.
We have an ROI template, but we use that more to kind of try to gauge what value. Like we're asking you those questions. So what do you think it costs? What is an additional one meeting, or how many additional meetings do you think you could get with this tool? That's one question. Like, is it one meeting a week? Is it 2 a day? What is it? And then what does that mean to you? How many of those would you convert as part of the ROI model from a meeting to a conversation, or take it to the next level, and then convert to actually a sale? So the answer to your question is we collect data that would probably be used in a model like that, but we don't have anything out of the box that says, this trip enter these dollars and this is what's happening. So.
Yeah, I think American Express, they purchased recently, they figured out just one more stop a day, one more visit, is enough to really justify the purchase.
Right.
So, and that's,
I guess I just look at it from like you have those sales reps who constantly travel all the time, but then they're really not.
They're not hitting enough accounts.
They're not hitting enough accounts, and
Sure.
they're just kind of like almost just doing it just to do it, and they're really expensive. Like, can you figure out a way to rein that in and say, hey, like, look, you're spending X amount, but you're only visiting so many clients.
You know the routes. I mean, you know how many accounts they're seeing.
you can figure that out.
Right.
for sure.
And the other thing is people have talked. I just throw this out there. Related to that is when I put something on a route. Let's say I'm planning my month. If I put an account on a route, you can set it so that either me or no one else can put that account on their route, so you don't get people hitting the same account from a route perspective. But to your point, we can totally tell you we're storing all that, so the route's in there, so we know how many accounts they've visited. It's all activity reporting too, right? It's all Salesforce activities. So if you run activity reports, you'll see the same thing. That's what we're doing.
Another function that's really cool too that we just added is that when I built this route here, I can set that object and map anything so that those accounts won't be visible anymore when I'm creating a route. So you take that off your list, and so everything else out in the Cleveland area will be visible. So that's another nice function for reps out in the field. So don't keep hitting the same. Sometimes you have overlapping reps, right? Or territories over that. So that's another. If this rep plans a route, it wouldn't show up in the other reps map essentially.
Does it follow Salesforce hierarchy rules where it's, hey, I can only see accounts that I own, or I only see accounts that I own?
I mean, we can do additional
We can still-
security things,
Yeah.
like we can do things on top of Salesforce, but we can't override Salesforce.
Right.
So anything Salesforce rules, if it's you can only see your own. Maybe everybody can see accounts, but only you can only see your opportunities, because you could route opportunities too.
I can show you that. But yeah, you can build basically those map layers I was showing you. You can toggle them so only you see, like you would see them as rep, and what exactly works. You don't want to see. You only see your accounts. In the map.
Okay. That was-
340.
any other questions? Any other questions of interest of geocoding?
Who's your primary buyer? Who are you guys selling to the most?
We sell to sales ops. We sell to VPs of sales. We're starting to get into more of the service use cases. We've been working with the Salesforce teams a lot on their big service use cases. They want to have this as a complete picture, because we fill that sort of map view. We're working a lot now with public sector. If you go to any of does anybody in the DC show? There was a DC World Tour, Salesforce World Tour.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You were there?
No. We had a couple of guys go.
Yeah. Well, one of the big booth they were doing for the government, they were doing like a simulation, and they were using us to render the stuff. So any use case where there's rendering. So to answer your question, to date it's been sales ops for territory management. It's been field sales, but
And it's
we're
mostly filled. So it is B2B. Like B2C is not really.
No,
BC.
both B2C, definitely B2C too, because B2C, because of the Google
Right. That
POI, it's really good for that. But
And Renewals by Anderson uses the premium property.
yeah, I mean, that's probably a good example. One of the things we're going to talk about when we got to the premium property data set, one of our customers is Renewals by Anderson. They sell Anderson windows. So before using Map Anything, they would just sort of blanket neighborhoods and, just sort of body them, just knocking on wood doors. And with the premium data set that I was talking about, that 140 million rows that we offered, they lay that in, and they put in queries that say, give me houses that are 10 years old or older, as an example, and give me houses that are worth more than 500,000.
Cool.
Because they're not going to sell 60 grand worth of windows to
That's
a
right.
house that's only 150,000, as an example. So they can be much more targeted about how they target. And when I say that's a residential use case, remember that property set has commercial use cases too. So we know, there's stuff in there like loan values. There's over 300 fields in there. So and we've got a website. It's actually on our website. With the announcement we had last week, we exposed it. You can go to the fields and see all of those 300 fields. And then you can see stuff like first owner, second owner, and land values, land type. Yeah. Floor type, and roof type.
And then from a rep perspective, how does the rep actually manage it? So if I'm actually knocking doors in, is it just on my phone that's kind of guiding me, or how do I follow the map? It's some sort of app.
Yeah. So when he was going to show this,
Yeah, I apologize. I wanted to see it. Obviously.
So the route's there, and then I hit my first point on the route, and then
it just goes.
I hit map, right, and it takes me to my default app, whether it's the iOS mapping tool or Google, or on Android, it's Google Maps.
Yeah.
It'll use that and navigate you
I
there,
see.
and then once you get in proximity, then it knows that you've checked in, where you're at, and check out. Do the same thing, go
does it give you information about the actual location you're visiting?
Oh,
or
yeah. We
based on
have
those
what's
numbers.
called tooltips, so you can have up to 10 fields out of Salesforce.
You're kind of
So
seeing. So
you can always navigate to right in Salesforce 1, by the way. Like I can click right in Map Anything, and I'm in Salesforce 1, so it'll take me right to that record, so I can get to anything.
Yeah, that use case made a lot more sense to me when I heard about you guys, the B2C kind of concept, especially like the one you're talking about. That makes a lot of sense. But a field rep where I've got 20 accounts total.
Yeah, you're not doing route optimization.
You're not doing. So I mean,
Correct.
what type of B2B field sales is really pertinent? Is it just more people who have thousands of accounts and they're
Some of it has to do.
or is it
with,
more transactional B2B sales?
Well, it's probably more. Those are more the operations inside folks. So in the account planning and the prospect planning. So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
MEP Health. I was with them about a month ago, and they use Map Anything. They staff hospitals.
Yeah.
So they have their target, their prospects that they're going after, and they use us to look at like populations, because if they have a target that's in the middle of nowhere and they sell 100 people, they're going to have to get 100 people to travel there, so they're going to lose money, right, on that particular deal. So some of our bigger enterprise customers, they want to stand back and use Map Anything as an analysis tool and look at, you can do white spacing heat maps. We can show, by product, different product maps across your different territories. Where should we put another rep or not put a rep? Where should we prospect? Where should we not prospect? So a lot of people use it for
like the internal
analysis.
territory planning.
yeah,
territory
strategic level.
which I have.
I see. That makes more sense. Okay.
I have, but get going. I've been telling people get going on that one because I've been talking to our CIO, our CEO very regularly, and I think we're too cheap for that because you can buy 3 licenses and you can do real.
Yeah, because you can do it.
You know what I mean? Like, so we're looking at changing the pricing model for that to be
For that use case.
pricing based on territory. Yes, we're looking. Our territory model will probably come out with territory pricing in the not so distant future. At least we need to because we're giving that away.
Okay. That
We're
makes
mapping
sense.
worldwide. Anywhere Google Maps, we map, so we give international companies planning their territories.
Yeah, if you look at the architecture, it's really cool because we can pull that out if something happens with Google. Not that there's anything bad with Google. We started off with Google Maps and then we went to TomTom. And the way architecture works is we're using, think of Google as a tile framework under the covers, so we can really slide in another one. We're dealing with a company in the Netherlands, and they use images. They develop areas, and the images that Google provided them were not. We could show image view of Google right here. We have that as a switch, but in the Netherlands, this part of the world, their images were not current enough. So they gave us their image set, their view, and we added a button in there. And now when they're in that part of the world and they zoom in, they switch over to that tile view, which is their images, and then they're doing all their monitors and Salesforce stuff. So it's pretty neat that you can be flexible with the tools.
And how is the integration with InsideSales.com? I mean, is there anything really there? Is there a partnership here?
We announced, there was a partnership announced sometime last year.
Yeah.
To help to be one of the neurolytics, for geo purposes. Do you work for Insight?
I do. Yeah, sorry, I do.
And I don't know. I don't have any information on where that is.
Got it.
I know it was mentioned this morning too during the keynote.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
happy
I
to
just
see
wondered.
something on the slide. I was hoping he would specifically call out us and tell us what we're doing with them.
Well, no, I mean, we often we've had a few requests. I work on our services team, and we've had a few requests for, kind of partners of ours, and I know your guys' name would come up, so I'm wondering kind of the use cases, but I didn't have the answer as to what the integration or if anything looked like. So sure, we'll have to figure that out.
I think they're looking at Inside Sales is looking at our geocoding or geovisualization capability as one of the neural.
That's right. Yeah. Perfect. Good. Okay. Appreciate it, guys.
I guess we could probably say thank you and
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And for our next trick,
You just want to go back.
we want to sit down. Hey, they're coming back on.
Oh, right when we end. Of course. Of course.
Wait a minute, you were just hoping that he would stop talking, so as soon as I got done, turn the lights back on.
Jeez. That's all we were waiting for. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Good.
yeah, it's fun.